Good morning, I'm Charlie Redner, and this is Writers and Readers, a brand new show, Season 1, Episode 1. You know, for the past 10 years, I've been interviewing authors from Laguna Woods to London, and it's been a lot of fun. Well, on this show, we're going to do the same thing, except we'll probably have a lot more locals, so I like people being in the studio. It's the first time I've been in the studio in a year and a half, I guess. And we'll interview New York Times best-selling authors like Jamie Ford. We'll interview local and Laguna Woods writers. And I want to do another thing. We're going to have readers come on without an author. And I want to talk about all types of books, the New York Times bestseller of the week, the National Book Awards. Oh, let me tell you about the National Book Awards. I was watching the show the other night, and to my surprise, and I was happy to see Luis Alberto Urrea, my friend, who was chair of the fiction committee. And he was in charge of helping them judge he said he did like 600 books they read. So he chose a book, and it's called A Hell of a Book by Jason Mott. And what's really good about it is sometimes when I call the publishers, we're not NBC or CBS or whatever, and I have a hard time sometimes getting these top flight authors. But with Luis now, having chosen out of those 600, there's going to be a lot of them I'd like to have on the show. And I know the least Luis will do for me is send him my information. And then a little later on in the show, lo and behold, the winner of the poetry for 2021 was Martina Spada, and he's been a good friend. He's sent, every time I've asked for poems for the Hummingbird Review, a literary anthology that I publish, he's been right on the ball, and he sent me something. So that's what this show is all about. Now, before we meet our first guest, I would like to have her read, and let me set the scene for you. You're going to be hearing Hangmi Basari, and she's going to be reading from her book, Behind the Red Curtain. And this is the scene I want her to read. I'll set it up for you. It starts April 28th, 1975. We're in front of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, and we're waiting there all day and all night. Very little food, very little water, no place to go to relieve yourself. And finally, at 4 in the morning, the gates magically open, and the crowd rushes forward into the embassy and up onto the roof. And here's what happens up there on the roof. Hangmi, will you read for us?
Yes. Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
A terrible truth settled like a weight on the hearts of the multitude. You learn to detect hopelessness on people's faces. When one more dot appeared from afar and the crowd grew agitated, the white man stood up. He talked to us, the crowd, which he did not wish to belong to, but now included him, though clearly alien to him. I did not understand his words. They were harsher than the soft French that I knew, but I could easily guess from his gestures. Sit, his arm said, pushing down the air around him. Be quiet. He touched his index finger to his lips. A man rose and translated the brief talk into Vietnamese. Show the pilot you are peaceful. He might not risk his life and plane otherwise. The crowd acquiesced. Silence blanketed us in the drape of death. Even the babies stopped stirring. In that suspended position, we waited. Waiting, we perceived the sound of choppers above us, but could no longer see them. We were waiting still when dawn rose over the horizon. No flying object was seen in the lighted sky. But foolishly, dumbly, we continued to sit in our stillness, waiting. The white man got on his feet and left. One by one, the people around us did the same, swallowed by the opening that the previous night had been a door to heaven. that this morning was the mouth of a devilish cave, gaping wide, eating. There was no more hope. I felt it. My ears picked up that saddest announcement. Let's go now, children. Let's leave. Kwan.
Kwan was your mother?
Kwan was my mother.
And that was you, your mother, father, and 3 other siblings?
Yes, we
You
were
were all
6.
together up on the roof. We all saw the helicopters. If you were old enough to see TV or even, history TV, you can see all day long those helicopters were going and coming, but when you got up on that roof, they never came back again.
They were very far away, but they never came
Never
close.
came to the embassy. I saw there were photographs where they still got people off of the CIA building, which was close by, but they never came back. So you've mentioned how you felt. Could you perceive how your father felt? Because obviously he was in charge of the family trying to get out, and this wasn't going to happen today.
We never thought during those times, it's the less we know, the better for us. So I never approached him to ask him how he felt, even later on when we arrived, get out of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew how I felt, and I knew when he said, let's go. Mm-hmm. It's just hopelessness. It's the end. It's the end. And we did not know if that means the next day we're going to be executed or not, because it did happen when he escaped the North Vietnam.
Right. Well, that's something we have to go back into. Your family was fairly well off. They were from the north originally, but you lived in Saigon when you were born, right? And
yes.
You were well off. You had drivers for your cars. You had maids. So it was obvious that you people had to get out of town when the communists took over. So let's back up one day. What happened the day before? It's almost 2 days if you count that you waited almost 2 days at the embassy. What happened on that first day when you're all at home and you're waiting for your father to come home from work and you plan to just get in the car and go to the airport and fly away?
We were very close. Our home was very close to the Tan Son Nhat International Airport,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just very loud bombing the few days closer to April 30th, the last day of Saigon's.
Yes.
And it came to a point when we were panicking as we were waiting for our dad. That morning, the 29th, he was still got up and went to work because he was hoping for his last paycheck.
Yes.
He did not want, I think the logic was he did not want to be blamed for deserting his workplace and will not have the eligibility to his pension later on.
Yes.
That was his motivation for showing up daily until
Right.
his boss said you no longer have to show up or otherwise when
Yes.
we were rescued.
So when you heard the artillery getting closer and closer, did you say you thought it was just another, like a Tet offensive, and people would still maintain control by the Americans and the South Vietnamese army?
Well, I was just 13 at that time, so I did
Yes.
not
Understand fully.
think that far.
Yeah.
I just know it's getting dangerous because it was louder than ever. We grew up in Vietnam, we always heard bomb, but that close with the smell of smoke from my home, and you can see smoke rising
air.
up in the sky.
So you drive to the airport, you just couldn't get to it. It was blocked. There was trash in the streets, and it was total chaos, right?
Sure, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Good grief. Well, let me tell you, Hung Mei was born and raised in Saigon. She moved to California at age 22. She's learned English. She's a chemical engineering degree, married, mother of 2, and a member of the Whittier Writers Club. And she's thrilled with her publisher, Los Nientos Press. Well, I have 2 things to say about that. Number one, that I think I should become a member of the Whittier Writers Club, because if they've helped you at all, you have done a magnificent job writing this book. I can't tell you how wonderful it is. It's prose, it's almost poetry. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And also, I would think I'd like to meet your publisher, because it sounds like he's done a very good job for you, and you're happy with him.
Excellent publisher. I would recommend him, my publisher, to anybody.
Great. And here's something I wrote just for you, so that you can use it as a promo if you ever decide. I'll give you a copy of this. And it's my idea of the red curtain here. An important memoir, beautifully written in prose that borders on poetry. The book is filled with emotional moments where one can easily cry along with the narrator, a reminder of what war leaves behind when the combat ends and its citizens can't escape the nightmare of their life left behind.
Thank
Now,
you, Charlie.
did you think of anything when you saw the what happened over in Kabul, Afghanistan, at the?
Yes, it was like a replay of the fall of Saigon.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe it because we know following the news that the U.S. will withdraw
Right.
soon. But we thought that with the experience of Saigon, Vietnam, it would be a much better withdrawal.
Yeah.
In Saigon, we had about 2 months, even though we thought it would be much longer than that, but 2 months, and yet people were scrambling for their lives.
Wow.
In Kabul, it was a matter of hours
Yes.
when
Yeah.
Taliban came in.
You mentioned something else in your book I was fascinated to hear. Sometime in April, they were playing White Christmas on the radio on the American station.
It started on April 28. Of course, at the time, we did not know. I read history after I got out of Vietnam. It started, they play White Christmas on American channel starting April 28.
What did that mean to the Vietnamese people?
We do not, we never heard that because it was played on American radio.
Yes.
Maybe podcast only to Americans.
But was it like an underground message that this meant it's time to get out?
Right. It was a signal.
Yeah.
All Americans and military personnel understood that the code signal was the White Christmas being played on radio in middle of April.
Yeah, that would be bizarre here, as a matter of fact. I mean, yeah.
Right. But we, normal folks like us, we did not get to that radio. I don't think we were tuned into that radio station, nor able to.
Okay. Yeah, I failed to mention at the setup that you were a 13-year-old girl waiting in front of that embassy then. So, and you had a lot more to go. So you went home after the embassy, and you recovered and regrouped. And it wasn't until August, I think, in '76, that you attempted to leave again. Is that correct?
Right. My dad first attempt to organize a team group to escape was a little bit before that, a few months before that, during the summertime when we were done with school. And I remember it's around June, July that first group escaped, and he received the signal, coded signal, message that they reached Thailand. And that was, that told him that this is the right connection, that we can follow, we would follow up with them.
So what you have to do is go to a seashore village and get on a boat. Now tell us about the third time. You did get to the seaport village, but what happened the very first time you made the seaport village?
Well, I was separated from my whole family because they was able to buy the tickets from the black market and board the bus together with other members of the escaped group.
Right.
But I, for some reason, with another older lady, could not procure the ticket for ourselves. So my dad would just say, now let's just change method. Just get a motorcycle, which was the mean of transportation overnight for people in Vietnam at that time.
And yeah, so you rode on a motorcycle like all day to get to the seaport city. And one of the things I'm amazed about, and we'll cover this, is the fact that I think it was your father specifically, he wanted everybody to get out together. And what happened then when you got to the seaport city and your father was seen wearing a watch that possibly shouldn't have been worn by someone who was just looking to be, to mingle in with the native people of the village?
When I left home, as you said, as I said, separately with another adult with me, I never joined my dad at all.
Right.
By the time they brought me over to my family, my dad was already retained on the road to Hatien, right? And it's just I overheard adults talking and said, he shouldn't do that. He shouldn't, wear that gold pen on his pocket. He shouldn't wear that Omega gold watch. Because he disguised himself as a peasant and wearing all black. But he forgot there were other signs to show that he did not belong to his costume.
Right. So he got caught, and then your mother had to make a decision. She could have gone ahead with you children perhaps, or she could have sent the children and gone back, but she decided to take everybody back because you were all for one and one for all, right? You were leaving together or you weren't. And that was your father's wish, I'm sure. So
I did not know if they ever talked together before we left home that if in case something happened, we would abort the attempt and came home together. But it was at that time that my mom being presented with that option, and she said, after thinking hard, here was the chance for one of us to get out with a group, but she said, no, we would come home together because something happened to the escape, or somebody at home separated from the person who escaped would not be thinkable.
So your father went to jail for a while, and your next escape you try is in 1978, and again you get to a seaport village, and you actually get on a boat, and you're out there in a small boat, and you're headed toward the mothership. What happened?
Again, the second time we were also separated into smaller groups because there was no way you can leave any places in one large group. So my father have left with other people. My grandmother and my two youngest sisters were already left home a month or two before us to another sea town bordering the place where we're going to depart it from. That night, I was with my mother and my younger brother Patrick, and we boarded a small boat, something that the person has to use the hand to rove, and then transfer from there. We were transferred to a bigger boat with engine, and that's when that they saw from the far away told them that the mothership was in trouble, that we could not head there, and they decided to escape just with this boat to go across the ocean and maybe go to Thailand just with whoever on that small boat.
Gotcha.
Right.
So again, you were thwarted from your attempt. And then the next time, it seems to me, is this the one where you're on a scooter and the scooter goes back and forth a few times before it actually gets to the city you're trying to get to?
That was much, much later. After the second escape, we lost our home because we did not come back within a few days. And so the government always keep watch on home and people coming. And we lost our home. We came back, stayed with our aunts at a different home. And that was one of the escape attempts that somehow I still do not understand until today. We boarded a Lambretta.
That's what you were on, and it crashed?
and the Lambretta just keep going on the highway as if it knew its destination, but then made double turn, return back, a few attempts like that until suddenly the whole Lambretta just crashed on the highway.
I didn't understand that part. What happened? The driver just got disoriented and crashed or whatever?
We did not know.
Yeah.
We just, it was first of all, the Lambretta was meant for at the most 6 passengers.
Right.
We were about 12 to 15
wow.
on that Lambretta.
Gotcha. Now
So
I know why it crashed.
With the maneuvering, so many, it was overloaded.
So finally, it's 1980, it's December, and you try to escape again. Oh, I'm sorry, let's go back to May 1980. You leave the town and you get on a boat, and the boat starts chugging away, and apparently the engine failed and you're just floating away?
Right, so we were able to, in this escape, again, it was just my mother and my brother, Patrick, on same boat. We thought we were heading toward the open water.
Right.
But the engine overheated and fell. And we were just stranded on the open sea for a night and a day when we waved down a large fishing ship, and it was from the government. So we were captured.
Wow. And put in jail. And well, didn't you have to swim ashore? One of those, you got into one of the boats, and the boat.
That was in a different escape.
Another escape?
That was, yes, that was when we portray ourselves as Vietnamese Chinese. The government at that time allowed Chinese nationalities to return to their country by paying gold. So my father fudged our birth certificate to make our name sound Chinese-like. Very good attempt. I did not know how he can succeed if anybody...
Well, you helped, didn't you, laminate? Were you part of the conspiracy documents you had to make funny?
Right.
You can laugh about it now, but it's life and death. It's serious.
Right. And at that time, you know, at that age, I always make some toys myself, made purse, and now my dad recruited me to make laminated forgery.
Wow. Well, we have to cover your last escape, so we have some time to talk about a few other things. The last time you tried to walk across instead of taking a boat through Cambodia. You decided to walk through Cambodia. And real quickly, what happened as soon as you crossed the border?
We haven't get the chance to cross the border. If we crossed the border, you wouldn't see me today, because that was when Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge was there killing their own people.
Right.
So my father decided to walk because the typhoon season was on, and we had to leave. My brother, Patrick, was approaching 18, and there was no time to waste.
Wow.
So we decided the only method was left to us was walk across Cambodia to Thailand, not knowing, because we had no news, not knowing that Pol Pot, Insari, and Khmer Rouge was persecuting people in their own country.
Wow. Well, there was so much more I wanted to talk about. Is there any other specific aspects of the book that you would like to? I mean, it was so, I'm so impressed with the book. I mean, forging your birth certificates and end up watching your father running like a rabbit, you said, because he got caught, and your parents wanted everybody to get in. And you had to write letters in case something drastic happened to the rest of the family? Oh my
because
God.
our family, one of the motivation for our hopeless attempts to cross the borders of our own country were that our family were divided into 3 after the loss of Saigon. My one brother was in the States, in the United States studying, and the other 4 were in Europe, in Belgium and France. They left the country to overseas to study. And they were luckily outside of Vietnam when the event of the loss of Saigon happened.
And you, of course, needed them. You don't have to express anymore, but you needed them to supply you with food. When you were in that octagon prison, it sounds like it was a real prison, a real hell, and you had to live in there for what, 2 years?
While we were in and out of prison all the time,
Yeah, I
doing
know.
about 7 years after the loss of Saigon.
Right.
And the last time I was in a concentration labor camp for 18 months.
Wow.
Only me.
Wow. Oh, my God. Thank God you're here. Tell us how to get your book, dear.
You can. This book is available everywhere on Amazon, on Los Nitos Press if you want a signed copy, and Barnes and Nobles, any online bookstore would carry my book.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, and what a wonderful story. And I'm so happy you're sitting across from me right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you so much.
As I mentioned, we're going to have readers on occasion, and sometimes I'm going to ask people to just pull books off their shelf that they'd like to talk about. And I pulled a few that I'd like to talk about. This is Alexandria, the home of the modern world. I love this book. Another one is called Bliss. This is a book that's all about Turkey, and I always have serious considerations for what's happening in Turkey. It's a geopolitical situation where they're between the West and the Middle East. And of course, this is made into a movie, and a lot of people have read this already, is The Kite Runner, which is, I find, is an outstanding book. And just last night, I was watching TV, and I saw that this book, which is The Tender Bar, is now being made into a movie. And I think it's wonderful. This was written in 2006. I read it in 2006, and now it's going to be a movie, so I'm so happy about that. Well, that wraps up our first show. Hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you next time right here where we are right now. This is Charlie Redner saying bye.